Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Ants Hood. And today's video is going to be an introduction stroke get a video into my Solenopsis Geminata, or the tropical fire ant. And I know what you're thinking, why have I done it? Why have I done this to myself? Have you not seen the colonialist video? Well, I have, and I still did it. But before that, I just wanted to tell you about my Patreon page. Now, I've discussed this before, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you want to support my channel so I can help buy stuff like new cameras and more ants and stuff like that, by all means, sign up to the tiers. You get free stuff, check it out. These guys are more than happy to help me at the moment, so please follow suit, because that would be awesome. Now, let's talk about the ants, because that's what we're here for. So I was scrolling through the Ant Lady's webpage last week, I think it was, when I was out camping on holiday, and I've seen these crop up, and because I had a couple of beers, I went a bit crazy and ordered myself some ants, and that's how I ended up with fire ants. I will leave a link to the Ant Lady's webpage in my description below. Now, like I said, I wasn't really after this species general of thumbs, but I kind of got seduced a little bit by it when I seen it on their website. But they've arrived here, and as you can see here, they've got a nice little batch of eggs there. They've got a nice little batch of workers and a nice little batch of larvae as well. So she looks really good. She looks like she's doing well. The test tube looks reasonably fresh as well, which I'm quite pleased with. Only downfall is it was glass and I ended up breaking it, but I'll talk about that a bit later. Believe it or not, there is not a lot of information for the hobbyist out there for these species, even though they've been made well famous, that's proper English by the way, really famous by Ants Canada. And as a result of this, there seems to be some inconsistencies about what actually temperatures these guys require. Now, the colonialist raised this point as well in his video, and I'm going to re-raise it as well, is a lot of people seem to think they stay in the high 20s. Now, from what I've seen, their range is around 22 to 28 degrees with a humidity of 50 to 80%. But their peak activity for foraging and stuff like that occurs between temperatures of 25 to 32, which is quite high. So you might be asking, well, that's a lot of information there. What are you going to do, Hood? Well, I'm going to look at keeping mine around 26 degrees C, because it better be too cool than too warm. Because if it's too cool, I mean, not ridiculously cool, like 10 degrees, because that will just kill them. But if it's too cool, all you're going to do is slow down the brood development. Over, if it's too hot, you're going to kill them. So why risk it for a biscuit? So I'm looking at keeping mine the humidity around 70, 80%, because I know they like it humid, but I'm looking at temperature at around 26 degrees for the nest. It's also really important in the foundation stage that you do not disturb her too much. Now, she's not really skitty or like scared, like when you look at your foundation of the Messobarbaris, but she is quite sensitive, and if you disturb her too much, even if you get the climate right for her, you run the risk of this colony dying out. So try not to disturb them too much, and try your hardest to leave them be, because this is where people keep failing. If we move on to the setup, what I've decided to do is use these AliExpress outworlds. They're really cheap, to be honest. I can't remember how much they cost, maybe $5 each, with postage as well, which isn't too bad. I've used them on a number of species, but nothing really small and really escapisms like the Solenopsis. So I am interested to see how they get on. But I think with the sealed sides and rims, which are glued in place, as you can see here, I think that they should be okay, because there's not many avenues for them to chew their way out or anything like that. Because Solenopsis is so keen on trying to escape, I mean, they're literally like ninjas of the escape world, I've decided to like try and seal in any possibilities from finding a way out. Now, the tube that I'm putting into this outworld is this one here, and it is fairly snug, but I've got a larger tube which fits really snugly on top, and I'm going to use that as a bit of a stopper to stop them trying to get out between the gap from the tube and the outworld, as you can see here. Then what I'm going to do is get another piece of that larger tube in and put it over the top, and then push it right against the outworld, so it's sealed on both sides, so it should be more difficult for them to get out. And what it also does as well is when I'm moving it about, it stops the potential for the tube to move and potentially give them an avenue of escape. So just covering myself to make sure that they cannot get out, because if they do get out, these ants, they are very, very evasive. Yes, the queen's not going to get out, she's not going to escape, obviously. It will be workers, but apparently I've not been stung by these yet, but their sting feels like you've been stung by a bumblebee or a wasp, so it hurts, and I don't want to risk it. You'll also notice on the outworld that I've already applied the barrier of PTFE. Now the reason for this is I generally use the mineral water one, but because it's moist and it's wet, I've noticed this with my Fidolis, and also taking advice off the colonialist on this. He found that, and I found with my Fidolis, they tend to put debris on it so they can cross that moist barrier by sticking the debris. Now PTF dries, so it's not moist. So if they try and do that, it just falls off, but it still creates that barrier. Now PTFE is good, but you do need to keep an eye on it. So if it looks like it's starting to penetrate it, then I need to reapply. To doubly make sure they can't get out of this, because I am scared they're going to get out, I've hot glued the larger tubing against the outworld, so it forms a good seal, so it shouldn't move about in case it moves, and it shouldn't be able to let them out. Fingers crossed. So this is what I was talking about, where the test tube had broken. Now the reason I broke this test tube being glass, apart from it being glass, was that I made some test tube adapters, so I can put them in the test tubes and I can connect it up to my tubing. Small ones fit in it, the big ones fit over the top of it. Really good bit of kit, but I tried to force it in, hoping it would give, and all I did was break the glass. So to remedy this, I've got the standard size tubing that I've got here, as you can see. Then I get my hot glue out and seal it all the way around the test tube, so there's no avenue for them to escape, because you can see there's quite a bit of play there, and if I try and force some cotton wool in the end like I normally would, then the likelihood is I'll break the test tube again. So I just thought, why risk it, just put some hot glue on it. Now this glue gun, I got it for my model making, and I use it for all things model making as well. I don't generally use it to stick my models together, but I just find it handy when I'm doing stuff, mainly fibre optics, electrics and stuff like that. I can glue the parts down for it. But I've also found it's really helpful in hand keeping well. Take this broken bit there on the test tube, I'm applying the hot glue there just so I can seal it off to make sure it stays fixed and doesn't pop out of place. And it's really good for stuff like that. It's really good for sealing in bits and bobs as well. Yes, I'm going to have to write off this test tube and this bit of tubing once I'm done with it, but tubing's cheap as chips, so it's not a major issue. Now I did see this a bit out of sequence, so bear with me. As you can see here, I'm connecting it up, and then I get the hot glue and secure it around the outworld, as you can see. Now you need to take these precautions with these girls. You need to be prepared, because if you're not prepared, as everyone keeps telling me, then these girls will catch you by surprise, and then they'll take the mick, such as escaping or what have you. So I'll definitely recommend it. If you have got the ability to use a hot glue, you definitely do it. And if you're going to do what I've done, which is a bit of a tube and tub setup, where I've got the test tube connected to an outworld, I would strongly recommend that you use an outworld that's got another port, such as this one, as you'll see in a couple of seconds. And that's because these girls are used to moving. They move a lot in the wild, so they're quite easy to move to new nests and stuff like that. And you need a port so you can expand it out and attach new outworlds and new nests, more importantly. Now this is the first worker that tends to be waiting to the outworld as well. I didn't get much footage of it, but hey ho. But back onto the queen here. Now I've spoke to the ant lady about these, and she says preparation is key, and make sure you've got a decent nest where an outworld that they can't escape out of. I spoke to the colonialist, and he says you need to get an acrylic nest for these girls, because they will get out of anything else. Personally, I've spoke to Rakushi as well, and he seems to think that his nest, which is the MS nest, which I also use for other stuff, will be ideal for these girls, and they won't be able to chew through the 3D printed shells that he puts his plaster into for humidity. Colonialist, on the other hand, he seems to think they'll chew the way out of it. So Rakushi's going to put his money where his mouth is, and we're going to make the bet. So I am going to put these in the Rakushi MS nest to see if they do chew the way out of it once they're ready, and that is once they're ready. I do think they're going to be in the test tube for a little while, for the foreseeable future anyway, because unlike Ants Canada, I'm not going to brood boost these into the next century, so they grow from a couple of workers to over 100 workers in a matter of a few weeks. That doesn't happen in real life. He's brood boosting, he just doesn't want to tell you that. And also he's got multiple queens, because if you look at this latest colony, if you look at the early footage of it, she's got marks on her abdomen, I think it is, or a thorax or whatever it is, and then they disappear later on. So he's got multiple queens. He just doesn't tell you. But this is the real deal, guys. You follow my story. When I make mistakes, I tell you. When the queens die, I tell you. Ants Canada? Well, it's Ants Canada, innit? Anyway, I'll stop ranting and stop preaching. Doesn't matter who you talk to when it comes to these ladies. Everyone sings off the same hymn sheet. You need to be prepared for these. Now, I like to think I'm prepared. I've got a nest ready for them to move into. I am going to buy another nest just so I've got that next stage if need be as well. That's if the colonialist is wrong and Kushi is right, and that they can't get through the 3D printing. But time will tell. Time will tell if the Wakushi MS nests are good enough or not. What do you guys reckon? Leave a comment and let me know. Well, that's it for today, ladies and gents. Thanks for watching this video. I do have some footage that's not been seen, and I also will put all the footage of my Solenopsis in the video. If you want to see that, click the top right corner now, and that'll be my little something extra video. Don't forget to check out my Patreon page if that interests you, if you want to support my channel. I've also got a Facebook and Instagram page, all called Ant's Hood. Go check them out, guys. Leave a comment in the description if you like the video, and obviously subscribe if you like my channel, because that would be awesome. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. I'll see you in my next video.